on the job, and how did it go? Like, what were the things you had to learn while doing?
I had to learn how to code an iPhone app, and that took a lot of really late nights. I mean, like nights until like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and I did it very objectively, meaning like it's like, okay, I know CSS, I know HTML. How do I make like a rounded, square or something, like a square with rounded corners in like Objective-C, and figuring that out along the way, basically, was super fun, and just like took it to the next level. Now doing animations and stuff like that, doing all kinds of different types of like interactions, was something that was pretty awesome to learn on the job. So.
I already mentioned that I'd never never designed for a physical product before, but I think one of the hardest things for me is like learning how to be an entrepreneur. Previously, I was a VP at an agency, which meant I had a team of people. When I thought about something, I assigned it to somebody and it happened. And now I'm in a situation where nothing happens at the speed of my thought unless I actually roll up my sleeves and do it. And then it still doesn't happen as fast as I want it to, because I'm slower than a lot of the people who used to work for me. But also just like, how to talk to VCs. I never had the intention of actually starting a business. I really didn't know much about venture capital or raising capital. I didn't know much about talking to investors or how I was supposed to position myself, or, I didn't know anything about that. And I'll have to say, like, the jury's still out on how well I'm doing on it. It'll be, the Nailsnaps will go on to continue to be successful, or it will fall the way that most startups fail. And it'll just be a really interesting story for me to tell. And I'll still probably have really banging nails.
So I learned everything on the job. I started as a product manager, not as a product manager. I started as a marketing manager at a startup, and it just kind of became a need that wasn't filled by anyone else, and so I just did it. And I think that's kind of how I do everything, is like, if I need to learn how to code, you just do it, and you don't ask questions, you just get it done, and you ask the people around you to help you, and you don't complain about it, you just do it.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Mallory on this one, but so where else can you learn? I don't know where, I'm sorry, maybe that's the job is the only place, in my opinion, where you learn stuff. So you can go do as much school as you want to. I might be a little bit old, but I don't remember seeing a product manager course in the short time I spent in university. I don't remember even knowing what it was until someone said, hey, you should do that. So I don't even know where else we can learn it. So yeah, I think everything is on the job.
I've been teaching product management for about 3 years. So.
Where do I go, man? I need to learn, brother. Where do I go?
Yeah.
3 years, man. Come on.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, before that, it wasn't a thing, right?
I tried university 20 years ago, man. Like, where were you?
All right. So next question is: so what backgrounds or skill sets do you look for when hiring new PMs or UX designers? So what are you looking for in the people around you? I think it's broader than just UX and PMs. Like, what are the skills you look to surround yourself with?
Yeah, we're looking for someone who's built something. I mean, that's honestly the best way to learn, right? Like we all say, you have to learn on the job. So if you can't get a job as product manager, build something, ship it, learn from your users, figure it out. That's what I look for when I'm hiring.
I really like people with strong technical backgrounds. That's where I started. And I think if you, and I think a little bit, I feel like I'm just copying everything you say, Mallory, but if you've coded something and you've built it, you've been on that side, because most of my time is spent with engineering, right? Like or a good portion of it is spent with engineering, and so I sympathize with them. I know what troubles they go through, because I was on that side. I was typing on that keyboard, and I was pair programming, and I've done all that. So I really prefer, it's not the only thing, but I really prefer a very strong technical background, because you've been there, you've done it, and you know how stuff is built.
So, I think a lot of people come from a ton of different backgrounds, right? And if you're working in product, like, I think the main thing is, like, can you take something from 0 to 1 Can you take something from a concept to actually knowing what it'll take to ship it, to actually shipping it? You were saying you teach a course in product management. You were saying there's no courses in product management. I went to school for classical guitar and fine arts, and I was fired from Walmart when I was 19. Somehow I'm CEO and leading product at our company. But I firmly believe in like looking at my background, my trajectory, and just saying like, all right, here are the things that what I've done to kind of get to where I am, and a lot of it is like just get something done. Take something from point A to point B. Know what it's going to take to do that because you're obsessed from taking something from 0 to 1. So that's my thoughts on it.
I have personality traits that I look for. We all talked about the importance of being willing to like roll up our sleeves and learn. So I look for people who are really happy, lifelong learners. People who never think of themselves as out of school because they're constantly learning new things, picking up new traits. So I look for curiosity about new shit. I look for scrappiness, which is willing to, roll up your sleeves and get things done. And I look for the ability to communicate, because no matter what background you have, if you're a technical person, if you're a designer, if you can't share your idea either visually or in the written word or stand up in front of somebody and get them excited about it, the best idea in the world is a shitty idea if you can't sell it to the other people that you're working with or communicate it clear enough so that they can help you make it happen. So communication, scrappiness, and curiosity, those are the 3 things that really, really matter in any role, but particularly if you're working in product.
Thank you. So another question. So how do you get qualitative feedback? Do you do in-person interviews? Do you, how do you really get that qualitative feedback to really understand what your users do?
That's it. I mean, the qualitative feedback is talking to users.
Yeah. But in interviews, in real life situations, like
So for us, we like to watch people actually do 2 things: use the app and put on nail designs. If we can interview them at home, that's really helpful because then they can give us a little tour of like, here's my little drawer filled with like old 10-year-old bottles of polish. Sometimes though, if they're far away, like we Skype with them, but we're constantly talking to customers. You can't move forward without talking to them.
how do you approach your customers so that they'll let you in their house and show you, like, how do you go about it?
Sometimes it's friends and family. I mean, early on, it was like a lot of Kickstarter backers who were people who I knew or knew through a person. We beg people to talk to us. We have some customers who, write reviews or send us email, and we'd say, hey, we'd love to put you in our pool of like, VIP people who we're gonna reach out to from time to time and talk to, and we'll kick them gift certificates, sometimes to our products, sometimes to Starbucks. We've recently did a study with about 21 real users who kind of fell away from the app to try to understand what made them tick and like what was the problem. Did they struggle with the app or did they struggle with the physical product? So, but you can't get those qualitative answers. You're only going to see in the data what. You're never going to know why until you talk to people. So talking to people is the key to finding out why.
Yeah, so I'd say, is it weird that we have we have several thousand hosts now, and almost every single one of them we could point to and say we know them by first name, whether because we've spoken to them, because we've spoken about them, because somebody else has spoken to them and we've had conversations about that. We're consistently speaking to our community because we're learning and we're also building community that way, right? And I think basically what we invite people into our home. Literally, we have a house, Sunset in Doheny. It's moved out of my apartment, and we're bringing hosts over. We're hosting people every night, right? So we're having our community in there. We're learning from them all the time. In addition to that, anybody who signs up, again, apologies, but I swear it's with good intention, and it is very genuine when you respond. If you get an email from me saying if we were to do anything that we're not doing right now, what would that be? That's a powerful question, right? That's a powerful question to learn from who your users are, what they actually want, right? What we're not doing, as opposed to what we are doing. There was something really interesting that I learned when it came to actually interviewing users, which is the way that you ask questions about what you're building is very important. never ask a question like, would something like this solve your problem? Right? It's like, one thing that we do is we'll prototype something, we'll put it in somebody's hand, and we'll just say like, go ahead and add your listing. Or go ahead and book a place for tonight. And watch what they do. One interesting example of that is like, anybody here like design or like PM iPhone apps? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Have you guys read the interface guidelines, Apple's interface guidelines? They tell you never to use color on anything unless it's tappable, right? So in some sections of our app, like we were using like a color, and we saw people tapping around, and we're like, shit, they're tapping places where they shouldn't be tapping. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Damn. All right, we got to go back and change that. And it's like clear these guidelines are there for a reason, right? And we see people when they're trying to book a place, they're tapping on like things that are like, why would somebody tap on like, this icon that doesn't absolutely do anything at all? Like, it's like, oh, because I made it colorful, that's why. And it doesn't really make sense, and it's confusing to people. So getting that tactical feedback, getting people in, asking them the right questions about like what they're not getting from a product, and having as many touch points with customers as possible. We're obsessed with that. We're obsessed with like how we can scale that open conversation with our users. And inviting people into our world. Great way to get feedback. It's a little unique in our case because we're literally inviting people into our homes.
I know a lot of you guys are product managers and not designers, but a really helpful book, if you're curious, how do you get good qualitative information, and how do you structure those interviews, and how do you structure the research and turn it into something that's actionable? There's a book by a woman named Kim Goodwin. It's called Design for the Digital Age. It's a tome, but it's written like a textbook, and it actually is very easy to follow because it's kind of laid out with examples like a textbook. And there's a section, it's color-coded along the exterior of the pages. So you can go right to the section that's about structuring research and doing research and synthesizing research. It's phenomenal, and I highly, highly recommend it. If you are trying to get qualitative research, this book is your Bible.
Also, just to add something else to that, a really bad experience that a customer has is one of the best learning experiences that you'll ever have. That's that.
You guys nailed it. I mean, that is awesome. Another resource that I love for asking good questions is the mom test. It's this tiny, it's so little, and it's so fucking perfect. You should check it out because it's all about asking questions that even your mom can't lie to you about. And I just really love that. And the question that I used in my talk was, tell me about the last day you worked. And that's a very thought through question, because when you ask people, tell me about your job, that you're asking for a generalization, and you're not going to get anything in asking that question. You have to be very, very specific. Walk me through a day in your life. Be specific. So that's the best way to get it. I feel like there's kind of this undertone in this question is like, how do you manage qualitative feedback? And something that we use here, I told you about how we consolidated insights, we threw it up on the whiteboard, but we also use rainbow spreadsheets, which is something that Tomer Sharon came up with, who's an excellent UX designer. So check out the rainbow spreadsheet. That's a great tool for managing qualitative feedback.
Yeah, I think Asher did mention it, is you got to ask the right question, and so a lot of times it's not, a lot of times the question we ask is an action, like go watch live video, go, right? Go to this and then watch them screw up and mess up horribly. But this is actually a little bit challenging for us at the NFL because, when we go up to people and we're like, hey, you mind doing a little test? I work at the NFL, and they're like, oh my God. You work at the NFL, that's so cool. I'm like, what do you think of this? It's so awesome, it's amazing, I love it. And then they go home and they write a review. This crashed one time, I hate you, I hope you die, right? So we don't get that, like we just get too much enthusiasm right away. So we kind of got to weed through a lot of it, and it's kind of tough because right away people are like super excited, and it actually makes it a little bit more difficult to get that qualitative feedback that you need, so. Yeah.
All right. So another question here is, so how do you use data to make business decisions? So the idea is, I gather that the metrics are different for each one of you, and you measure different things in different products. So, but how do you actually use that to make an actual decision? Like, how do you go directly from data to a decision? Right? What are the metrics that drive you?
So, like I mentioned, in-market data is everything, for me at least, right? Not everything, it's a big portion of it. So, we have live dashboards we look at. We make sure everything is going. I'm actually missing a dashboard right now because I came here to speak. The ball got kicked off, and if you notice me on my phone, I was just talking to people. But anyways, it's an interesting question, right? We automatically react to bad data. So we'll automatically be like, uh-oh, usage is down. Well, what are we going to do about it? But then I always ask, and we have an entire team, a business intelligence team that are fantastic. And I always ask them, well, can we dig a little bit deeper? Can we see something else? Like, is it iOS only? Is it Android only? Is it this carrier only or that carrier only? Or what's where is the sort of breakdown point? So usually the first step is, okay, let's just look at the data even more, because it just could be like a crash happening on Android, Samsung, Galaxy 7, Honeycomb. I don't know, it just could very well be something like that. So first step is always to look a little bit deeper, to kind of get the real answer. And then a lot of times we have to react, right? Like I said, we had an executive decision come up like this, right, on us, and so they just reacted immediately. And a lot of times it's unfortunate. A lot of times it's it works out for the best. So.
I'm kind of in the middle of framing my metaphor right now, but I think you kind of hit the bad data portion of it. And in fundraising, there's a terminology when it comes to data, which is you have bad data, you have no data, and you have good data, right? And I think that also in product, it applies to kind of your methodologies and how you actually approach it is actually the deltas in between all of those, right? Which is basically saying if you have bad data, the delta in between is saying, I have a hypothesis that's going to get us back to good data. And that's trying to figure out what's wrong, right? And then when you have no data, it's okay, or bad data, it's how do we get to something good? So then you basically say, all right, stays are low, stays are really bad today. What's going on? Okay, maybe Ironworker, maybe one of the third-party services that we have is down, and now it's not working. So then how do we get back to good, right? So you fix a lot of those things there, and then it's you have a more grandiose hypothesis, which is I think this will increase our stays by X amount, right? And that's a little bit more of just you're testing your gut against something, and you're saying for a lot of startups and stuff like that, so much is based on just moving quickly. It's based on gut. It's based on having insights into things and understanding more what's wrong, right, than where the micro optimizations actually lie. I think, which is maybe a unique approach. Our data is the way that I kind of approach is more behavioral analysis, less quantitative analysis, but quantitative really points to what's wrong more than what's right. And behavioral analysis is what actually points us towards what we make better and the solution. So yeah, if that makes sense at all.
I'm just going to underscore and exclamation point all of that.
Awesome.
All right. So one more question about PMs. So how do PMs fit into your organizations? Who do they respond to? Where do they fit? How do PMs fit?
So PMs are really interesting at Philosophy. We've seen this shift from project management to UX designer. And really that's where we're at right now, is that PMs live in the space with their customers 100% of the time. So they read every single review that they get, and they understand where their customers are coming from and what their lives are like. And that's really kind of how I see the PM role kind of shifting over time.
So the PM at the NFL is really the glue. It's the glue that kind of puts everything together. So whether you're managing a vendor or a partner, or you're talking to the UX team, talking to creative team, talking to the engineers, making sure they all get together, make sure they're all playing nice. One person's talking bad about the other, and so we're kind of in the middle of everything, and kind of in the glue. And I like to think that the responsibility falls squarely on the PM's shoulder. I'm a type of guy that doesn't make excuses. I don't like the other PMs to make excuses either. If there's something wrong, it doesn't matter what it is. It falls on my shoulders. And so I take blame for everything. And so it's really we're that glue that puts everything together. I don't do a lot of work. I just make sure it sticks together. That's basically what goes on there. So.
Our organization's kind of weird, I guess, in this respect. So we're kind of half divided by operations, growth, community, and then the other half is product, right? I'm doing a lot of the product and the design and stuff like that, but actually the way that I like to think about PMing, just kind of in our organization, is more like a PM is like a CEO of whatever product it is that they're trying to carry across the line, right? And that means from like, and this is actually something that I learned from a buddy of mine as they grew their organization. They're now at almost 50, started a company called AngelList. And when it was like, when it first started, they were 12 and they were shipping product left and right. And every single product owner was responsible for every bit of that product, which included everything from the design of it, to the engineering of it, to the marketing of it, and actually getting distribution, evaluating that, getting all the quantitative analysis. So I look at things like that, and I say, I want to build that in our organization. So our engineers are the guy who leads iOS, the other engineer that we have that is like doing a lot of like our dashboard stuff, and my co-founder as well. We're kind of distributing and PMing to like everybody on the product team, right? So we have an owner of our dashboards, we have an owner of our iOS app, we have an overall like technology owner, and like I'm kind of owning design right now. But like if somebody has an idea for somebody wants to come up with like, you know, a product for acquisition on the web, right? Like user acquisition on the web, like they're gonna PM that entire thing and make sure that it gets done. So PMing is like very distributed, I think, in our organization. But you know, the way that we're able to do that is we make sure we're hiring the best people up front that are kind of capable of just like rationally organizing and prioritizing things along the way. And I think that like ultimately like you'll find that those have like that same kind of like taste, responsibility, and like ownership over product as they would, you know, marketing as they would growth as well. So all of it kind of fits into like, you know, different buckets, but they're treated the same way.
It's really interesting because we have kind of a distributed PM model at our office as well. But I wanted to say something about what you said about the role of PM morphing into UX designer. I think that's fascinating because in my previous life, I was a designer at Huge. And at Huge, the UX designer was sort of like the fulcrum on which every project spun. And there was a project manager, kind of like handling the logistics of meetings and stuff, but like driving the product forward was really the UX lead on the product. So it's interesting that you're seeing it go from PM to UX, because at Huge, it was like UX person was going, like moving farther away from like the day-to-day design and into just the larger vision of it. I think that there's probably, this is like a cyclical thing that's been happening, because in the olden days, there used to be these people called business analysts, and they would write ye old requirement documents that were like giant phone books of the product shall blah, 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 the product shall be easy to use or whatever, like nonsense. But the notion that there's some person who's in charge of figuring out what the product is supposed to do, it's kind of been moving around between business analyst, UX designer, PM. I wonder if there's going to be like a new flavor of Griffin that rises from all of this, that's like some new title that doesn't exist yet, but is that kind of creature that has the mind to drive the vision on a product. I think that's fascinating. It's cool to hear.
All right, that's it for our question time.